This is a video that I've wanted to do for a long time because I'm truly fascinated by the automotive industry. And if you haven't heard, used car prices are at some of the highest levels they've been at in decades. In fact, just last week, the Consumer Price Index jumped 4.2% from a year earlier in April, which is the largest 12-month increase since September of 2008 during the global financial crisis. But perhaps the most interesting thing about April CPI numbers is the fact that used cars accounted for over a third of the increase. If you look at this chart that was published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, you can see that prices for used cars and trucks increased by 10% from March of 2021 to April of 2021 and 21% over the past 12 months. For context, that 10% number is more than any other item on this list, including food, gasoline, energy, medical care, transportation, and shelter. In fact, April of 2021 represented the largest price increase for used cars since the Bureau of Labor Statistics started tracking this category in 1953. But what's really contributing to the rapid rise in used car prices? After all, they are used cars. They are supposed to go down in value, not up in value. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So make sure you tune in until the very end because I'm going to be dropping some serious knowledge. And before I forget, please hit that like button and please hit that subscribe button. It helps the channel out tremendously. And if you follow the channel, it will help you out tremendously. It's sort of a win-win for both of us. The first reason that used car prices are going up is because of the global semiconductor shortage. And because there is a semiconductor shortage, new cars just aren't being built at a rate to keep up with demand. You see, when the pandemic first hit, many automakers around the world canceled their orders for chips as consumer demand slowed down. With modern just-in-time inventory principles and the fact that people weren't driving, this made complete sense. I mean, why risk sitting on tons of inventory that might not sell? The problem is that those orders that were once reserved for the automakers got replaced by the booming demand in the consumer electronics industry. So instead of making chips for cars, chip makers focused their efforts on orders for the smartphone industry and gaming as more and more people were spending time at home. But now, as the economy starts to recover and demand for new vehicles resurges, those orders that were once reserved for the automakers essentially got pushed to the back of the line. For the automakers, no chips simply means no cars. Now, believe it or not, our cars have dozens of chips and sensors, and with the rise of autonomous driving and new safety systems, we can only expect these numbers to increase over time. Now, according to a white paper that was published by Deloitte in 2020, 40% of a new car's cost is attributed to electronic systems. And the shortage has resulted in just about every automaker in the world either having to cut production, lay off workers, or take a hit to the bottom line. The second reason that used car prices are so high right now is because of rental car companies. Now, this is sort of unprecedented territory for the rental car industry. Now, typically, rental car companies make their money by buying vehicles cheaply in bulk, renting them out, and then selling them at auction. Now, the reason that rental car companies are turning to the used car market goes back to the global chip shortage. There just aren't enough new cars being built to keep up with their demand. The rental car industry, like most industries, has kind of a unique backstory as it relates to the pandemic. Now, when the pandemic first hit, rental car inventories were sitting idle for weeks and in some cases for months. At one point during the peak of the pandemic, you could rent a car from Hertz or Avis for less than $5 a day. And with so much inventory just sitting idle, the rental car companies started selling off their inventory as a means to generate cash flow. Now, fast forward to today, they don't have enough cars to keep up with demand. In fact, in Hawaii and other parts of the United States, rental cars are going for as much as $200 a day. If we take a look at the Manheim Index, which is recognized by both financial and economic analysts as the premier indicator of pricing trends in the used car vehicle market, we can see that the index has gone up to a value of 191.4, which is a 54.3% increase from a year ago and a record high for the index. Vaccines are being rolled out. Cities and counties across the country are opening back up. People are getting back on airplanes to see their friends and their relatives. And people are taking those vacations that they put on hold for more than a year. And when people go on vacation with their families, they typically rent vehicles. In short, if you are looking to buy a used vehicle right now and wondering why prices are so high, you are actually competing with Avis Budget Group, Enterprise, and Hertz. The third reason that used car prices are skyrocketing is simply due to the fact that people are more hesitant to use public transportation than they've ever been before. According to a survey conducted by Ally, 72% of Americans are wary of using public transportation because of COVID-19 concerns. And the data shows that people plan on driving more even after the pandemic ends. This is more of a behavioral shift that I'm not really that surprised to hear about. Now, at the time of this recording, even I am reluctant to use public transportation, and that's coming from someone who took an hour-long bus ride to and from work for almost 5 years. Now, I do think that things will shift back to normal, but I don't think that this behavioral shift is going to happen this year. The fourth reason that used car prices have been increasing since the pandemic is the fact that new cars are simply too expensive. Now, many automakers that once used to offer sedans and coupes that were priced, well under $30,000 brand new, just don't offer those models anymore. Now, automakers have shifted their manufacturing efforts towards mid-size SUVs because that's where the demand is and that's where the profit margins are. So for many Americans, new cars are simply too expensive. Now, in response, dealers around the country are selling cars with over 100,000 miles on them, which they typically would have wholesaled to auction in the past. The fifth reason that used car prices are so high is sort of a two-part reason because both are related to government programs. Now, the first reason is because of the stimulus checks that many Americans received back in March. Now, I know that many Americans use these checks for other essential purposes, but many use them for transportation in the form of a used car, especially with the increased reluctancy to use public transportation. The second reason is because automotive repossession rates are at the lowest they've been in years, thanks to programs put in place by the government and generous programs put in place by lenders. Now, this is kind of a tricky one because unlike mortgages, auto loans are not federally regulated. So forbearance and deferments is solely up to the lenders. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out in the months to come as some of these deferment and forbearance programs are eliminated. But until that happens, it is materially impacting used car inventory and used car prices. Believe it or not, for many small used car dealerships around the country, repossessions of vehicles was an essential part of their business. They would buy those vehicles at auction, fix them up, and sell them for a profit. Now that supply for those vehicles has dried up, many smaller used car dealerships are going out of business. Thank you all for watching The Beat of Business with me, Ravi Wadan, and I hope you found this video helpful, especially if you are in the used car market and wondering why prices are outrageously high. But I would love to hear about your experience. Is your car worth more than it was a year ago? Are you tempted to sell? Are you trying to buy a used car right now and wondering why prices are so high? Please go to the comment section below. I'd love to hear your story. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.